So again, good morning to everyone. Dito pala si Miss Sel. Magandang umaga po sa inyo. Siyempre, invited ang Edge Warriors. Good morning, Miguel Alfonso Guda, aspiring entrepreneur from province of Sorsogon. So I'm sure this course will be very useful for you. Okay, so maaari na po tayong magsimula. So again, welcome to everyone to today's webinar brought to you by Bayan Academy and BayanEdge.mbs. So our topic for today is your 3 steps to financial wellness. Measure, manage, and multiply your wealth. Okay, so whether or not your business is bleeding cash or barely surviving as a result of the pandemic, there's always an opportunity to pick yourself up and get back on your feet. In this MSME Back to Basics webinar, we speak with Ms. Estelita Katakutan, the BayanEdge.mbs Executive Director, as she talks about simple financial measures that enterprises can take in order to get started on the roads towards rehabilitation. From assessing your current situation to working with the resources that you have and setting realistic targets, Ms. Katakutan will be covering the basics of financial wellness in the midst of the crisis. Join us as we tackle the challenge of recovery in this webinar facilitated by one of our country's leading figure in micro enterprise development, growth, and evolution. Okay, so let me introduce our speaker for today, of course, who is none other than Miss Estelita Chavez Katakutan, or Miss Babes as we like to call her. So Miss Babes is a certified public accountant, a certified financial consultant, and a registered financial planner. She was duly elected as board member and officer by the Credit Management Association of the Philippines back in 2012 to 2013. She was also granted a 3-year certificate of accreditation in commerce and industry practice by the Board of Accountancy and the PRC, or Professional Regulation Commission, last March 2017. She also represented the entrepreneurship sector as a National Screening Committee member for the 56th 10 Outstanding Students of the Philippines. She is also a member of the technical working group that designed the Standard Chart of Account and Financial Performance Standards for the microfinance NGO industry. So talagang bigatin po si Ms. Babes sa larangan ng microfinance. In the professional management field, she served various management positions of corporations engaged in film distribution, real estate, investment, and microfinance. She was also engaged as a financial consultant by a medium-sized FMCG enterprise that operates in the Philippines and other Asian countries. She was also part of a consultancy team engaged by ABS-CBN Lingkod Kapamilya Foundation in its livelihood project in Calauan, Laguna, and in Zambales. Currently, she is also coaching the CEOs of family-owned enterprises. In the academic field, Ms. Katakutan was engaged in teaching and course design. She was the faculty and one of the course designers of the Master in Corporate Entrepreneurship, piloted by the Ateneo Graduate School of Business, and she was also recognized by the Development Academy of the Philippines as a senior faculty for the Executive Doctorate in Educational Leadership. She is a part-time faculty at the ACE Center for Entrepreneurship in the Ateneo Graduate School in its Masters in Entrepreneurship program, including the Social Enterprise Development track. Okay, so she's also in the pool of executive and grassroots trainers here at Bayan Academy since 2009, where she has trained various leaders, educators, professionals, both in the private and public sectors. Okay, so Ms. Babes completed her bachelor's degree in business administration from the Philippine School of Business Administration in Manila, where she won various academic competitions. She holds her master's in entrepreneurship degree from the Asian Institute of Management, where she received excellent ratings, both in her 5-year integrative social development plan and recital. The Entrepreneurship Guru also awarded her a certificate of recognition for being the best service provider. So as I mentioned, today Ms. Babes is the Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of Bayan Enterprise Developers, Growers, and Evolvers, or Bayan Edge, a non-profit, non-stock organization committed to enterprise building, financing, and social development. Okay, so without further ado, let us all welcome Miss Babes Katakutan.
Thank you very much, John, for that very generous introduction. Today's webinar is quite ambitious because in just 1 hour, we will try to cover as much. And I see familiar names here. And I hope that today will be an opportunity to encourage the modern heroes of our country. In the profile, I see different types of participants. There are educators, there are aspiring entrepreneurs, there are actually service providers helping entrepreneurs to grow and evolve. And probably you might ask, while majority is talking about poverty and recession, um, you might be asking, does it really make sense to talk about wealth? Okay, let me share my screen first. Okay, so our topic for today is MSME, back to basics, your 3 steps to financial wellness. So it's 3 M's: measure, manage, and multiply your wealth. Okay. The truth is, whether it's 1,000 or 1 million, you owe it to yourself and to your stakeholders to measure, manage, and multiply your wealth. And today's topic is an attempt to give you a breath of fresh air because for the past 4 months, many of our MSMEs have been bleeding and nearly surviving, although there are also those who are thriving. But let's not forget that this pandemic has also taught us to value the basics and essentials in life. I have been teaching and coaching entrepreneurs across industries, and I have discovered that the first step to financial wellness is not given value until the enterprise is confronted with either family disputes, fraud cases, losses, or liquidity squeeze. That's the reality. And you may have all the sophisticated tools and analysis, but if you don't know what to measure, then you cannot manage and multiply your wealth. So today I would like to bring you back to this basics. So again, the 3 steps is measure, manage, and multiply. But for a start, let me ask you some questions. So please type your answer on the chat box. I want to engage you. First is for those who are entrepreneurs, or if you're not entrepreneurs, you're helping one. Can you please type what's the category of your enterprise? If you're running your own enterprise, is it a micro, a small, or a medium enterprise? Next, what do you think is the superior financial statement of your enterprise? John, can you track whether answers are coming in the chat box?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So we have
So the
Efren
first
Salvador. Yeah,
question,
go ahead.
yes, the first question is, what is the category of your enterprise if you're running it yourself, or if you're not an entrepreneur but you're helping entrepreneurs? What's the category of those enterprises? Second is, what do you think is the superior financial statement of any enterprise?
So we have 2 who answered small and then 2 who answered micro.
Okay. So, 2 have answered micro, okay, and then
Ayan.
small.
A
Wala
third
pang medium.
may number 3, ma'am, na small.
Okay, so you're in. And then the third question is, what's that something that you have failed to measure and manage that you told yourself, I should have measured it? What is that something that you have failed to measure and manage that you told yourself, I should have not missed that? Because I'm sure what brought you here is You want to learn something to measure and manage. Okay? So for those of you who have yet to answer, okay, you will discover in the next sessions whether you have actually accurately or inaccurately measured those enterprises. Okay, so again, my presentation will be in three parts. First is how to measure, second is how to manage, and lastly, how to evaluate. Okay, thank you for
Ma'am, may
taking.
sumagot sa Facebook Live, superior financial statement balance sheet.
Wow.
So,
Pakitanong kung sino yan, mukhang
may
ano yan,
nakatama.
one of my, that's very good. Balance sheet is the superior financial statement of all which I will discuss in more details
Yeah.
later.
And
Okay.
then sa third question, ma'am, may mga sumagot. So, what did they fail to measure? Si Ramil Patio said capacity to lend. Si Miss Priscilla Manaloto, I failed to manage the profits. Michelle Season says measuring team performance.
Okay, very
May isa
good.
pa, inventory management from
Oh.
Efren Salvador.
So you think that they might be very basic, but really it's a common issue, not just of one, but majority of the entrepreneurs. I will show some data later. Okay, thank you, John. So, okay, so no more chat na, chat messages. I'll proceed to the next slide. Keep them coming, guys. Okay. My slide's not, wait, sorry. John, my screen is not moving.
Ay,
Have you controlled it?
no ma'am. It's on your end pa po.
It's on my end. Wait, wait. Let me. Okay, sorry. Let me share it again. Excuse me for a while.
Oh, we're also getting a lot of answers, ma'am, sa Facebook Live. So, pero they're saying the same things, no? Inventory management then. Meron din pong nagsabi, cash flow, ang nahirapan sila, si Sir Ramil.
Okay, so we have so far received different answers, but the common is it's all about money and performance, right, John?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so good. Sige, so we'll discuss more of that, but for now, let me introduce to you the different foundations, the Buy-in group of foundations, our programs and services. So as you can see, Buy and Edge is part of the three foundations, where Buy and Edge is into development, growth, and evolution of micro, small, and medium. We also have the sister foundations, Buy-in Academy. We're offering training and education for the different corporate foundations, social enterprises, and cooperatives. And finally, we have Search, headed by John. So we're really into building the nation from below.
Yes, ma'am. Tama po yan.
Alam mo, we're having technical problem here. I
I
don't
can
know
share
why.
from my end, ma'am. Do you want?
Mine is the latest kasi, John.
Sige po.
Wait lang, sandali. Sorry, guys. Sige, John, just share your slides there. Go ahead. John?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
There,
it's
there
not
you
in
go.
Zoom. It's not Zoom out.
Ah,
There. Please zoom it out. It's not Zoom out, John. Okay. So John, go ahead. Okay.
ay, ayan, ma'am. Kita na?
Yes, yes, I can see
Okay.
it. Okay.
Okay, go.
So sige, let's move to the next slide, please. Why is my screen? I think I have to log out first, and then I am having problems with my laptop here. Kailangan. May problema eh. John?
Sige. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't know what's happening. Okay. Sige, scroll it back, please. Scroll it back. I can see it na. Scroll it back. Okay. Sige, next slide. Okay, so that's the very core mission of Buy and Edge, serving Filipino micro entrepreneurs through microfinancing and business servicing. Next slide, John, please. Okay, so as you can see, we envision a happy, healthy, and prosperous Filipino nation. Next, John. Yan. So we believe that MSMEs are really the backbone of the Philippine economy, and data would show that 63% of employment actually belong to the MSMEs, and 99% of registered, hindi pa kasama dito yung nasa underground economy, 99% of registered businesses belong to the MSME. Okay. And this is a very good data from GEM. Madami ang nag-express ng interest na maging entrepreneur. They say that 85% are actually aspiring. They're making it as a good career choice. And they have more than half of them have very high intention to start a business. Wow, ang daming maging entrepreneur. Next. Okay, very rosy. Sabi nila, sa half daw ng population, they see na merong enough business opportunity sa ating bansa, and 70%, take note, 70% believe that they have the necessary skills to seize the entrepreneurial opportunities. But you will be surprised. The next slide, John. Okay? Majority, hindi dahil sa babae ako, pero sabi ng datos sa research ni Resurrection in 2012, magaling daw ang mga kababaihan sa goal setting, information seeking, systematic planning, and monitoring competencies. Pero bakit kaya, ano ang nangyari dito sa susunod na data? John? Okay, ito. High startup rate but high business closure rate. Ano ang reason? Well, unprofitable business operations and difficulty in accessing financing to continue business operations. This was research done in 2015. So that means when you say you're entrepreneurial, you're very good in all areas of operations, that you fail to measure the basic of enterprise management through finance, then no amount of strategic brilliance or no amount of marketing, operations, HR strategies will work if you fail to measure the very basic financial indicators. So dito, nakakalungkot, despite the availability of many financing institutions that are supposed to help various MSMEs, ang dahilan na nakalagay dito, they have difficulty in accessing financing to continue their business operation. So very, very clear that it's not just about failing to measure, but also failing to manage and multiply their wealth. So there's really a big issue in terms of measuring, managing, and multiplying wealth. Next slide, John, please. And millennials. Our millennials represent almost half of the country's workforce, but unfortunately, according to this study, there are also most of them that are least financially literate. Sad, ano? Okay, and according to the different financial performance of MSMEs, most enterprises, if you look at their performance, favorable in terms of liquidity, activity, and leverage, but they suffered mostly from a low-level profitability. So, looks like, pag tinignan mo, okay, how come? If you look at these different ratios, liquidity ratios, meaning they have enough cash supposedly, and they're able to turn um, to really sell their products well, and they're able to top financing. Pero bakit nalulugi pa rin? What's causing the profitability to dip? Okay, John, next. So today, I want to share the experience of Buy and Edge based on our context, the different enterprises, MSMEs that we support. We are actually all over the Philippines. We are in Zambales, Puerto Princesa, NCR, South Luzon, and Northern Luzon. So the experience, the survey that I will be sharing with you later represent all these different localities. Based on our survey, we look first at our internal data. It's important to say that you do customer profiling. It's important that you know your customers very well. So based on our survey, according to age, 75% of the respondents are in their prime working age, while 19% are in their mature working age. 53% of the respondents have additional sources of income. Next, John. And 80% of them have been with our program for more than 1 year, with 44% of them as members for more than 5 years. So you see, we really mine our data, especially the profile of our customers. We also look at the different loan size that they avail. So if you notice, 41% is at the grassroots level, and more than half belongs to the junior executive and executive level. So we define them according to loan size. Next. And because we are not just into microfinancing, we also build savings. That we allow our clients to build savings with us. And this discipline actually of building up savings helped them, made them more resilient in this time of pandemic, in this time of crisis. 81% of them have savings as collateral, and 51% have savings to loan ratio of more than 30%. And based on our data, in terms of credit discipline, 18% of them have fully paid as of June 30. 78% of them remain clean, meaning they're able to honor and pay on time, and only 5% are problematic. Why am I discussing this? Because based on this profile, you can see you can mirror the results of their performance in the rapid survey that we've conducted, series of which from March, during ECQ, and then during GCQ. So we have surveyed 1,599 of our micro entrepreneurs, and look at the category of our micro entrepreneurs. We have categorized them into 3: bleeding, surviving, and thriving. How did we categorize this? What's our definition of bleeding? These are our entrepreneurs that have fully stopped operations, probably because they have been incurring losses. So if you look at the data, from 70% during ECQ, it significantly improved. It went down to 19%. So anong ibig sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin, tumawid sila from bleeding to surviving. Surviving, ito naman yung hindi pa sila sa full operations, but at least they're able to break even. And so from 27% during ECQ, 100% growth, it jumped to 54%. And thriving is very good because from 3% to 27%. Thriving, they continue to operate and even actually expand their operations. Next. So we're able to get this data because we really measure the results of their performance. Every loan availment, every renewal, we actually measure their results of operations. We measure their net worth. So the results of a rapid survey during ECQ, GCQ in July pointed to this, that 33% of them actually made profit, 48% break even, and only 21% actually incurred losses. Next. So as I asked earlier, I asked this question, measure your wealth. Because normally, you will hear people saying, I belong to MSME. But within that MSME, you have to know exactly what category do you belong? Does your enterprise belong? Are you a micro, small, or medium? O baka hindi ka na MSME, you're already a large enterprise. And if you're asked the question, is your enterprise bleeding, surviving, or thriving? Again, you cannot answer this unless you measure. And at this time, this is a very basic question that you must answer. You have to face the brutal fact. How long is your cash runway? Hanggang kailan ka pa mabubuhay as an enterprise? So if you don't know the answers to this question, then you are in deep trouble. So now, I think at this point, you should already know what category you belong. So if you're a micro, sabi ng DTI, this is excluding land. So if you're 3 million and below, you're a micro. If you're small, that means you're above 3 million, but not exceeding 15 million. And medium, if it's above 15 million, but not more than 100 million. You also consider the number of employees, okay? Why do you have to measure? Why do you have to measure whether your enterprise is a micro, small, or medium? Well, first, because a micro enterprise is supposed to enjoy some tax break. You research on Bambi law, where you will have tax incentives as a micro enterprise. You're also not required to give the DOLE benefits and salaries if you have employees less than 10. And in terms of the accounting standards, it's also different for MSMEs. So it's less complicated as compared to those enterprises that are in the large category. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so what do you need to measure? Yan na. For those of you who have answered, I asked the question, what do you think is the superior financial statement of all? This is the balance sheet. Well, unfortunately, most entrepreneurs, when you ask, when's the last time you ever saw your balance sheet? They would say, when I last filed with the BIR, but that's for the purpose lang of statutory. It's not really the real financial condition of the enterprise. And majority of the entrepreneurs that I have coached, they don't actually bother to look or to measure this superior financial statement, the balance sheet. Most of the entrepreneurs would just look at the income statement, the bottom line. But mind you, this first financial statement that you have to measure, what makes it superior is that this is actually the financial statement that will tell you whether you're actually creating wealth for your enterprise. Take note of the bottom line here. It's called net worth, 1.5 million. So, ibig sabihin, milyonaryo ka na if you have a net worth of 1 million. So, if you don't even know how much your total asset size is, how can you say, how can you now know whether you're entitled to some tax break or tax incentive? So, if I have to make a survey now and I ask all the 100 plus participants here at Zoom, how many of you actually have gone through the process of measuring? Sabihin mo, I'm not an entrepreneur, but how about your personal? Diba there's such thing as SALN? No one is exempted in measuring your net worth. No less than the former CJ Corona actually had trouble explaining his SALN because as you would note, diba, SALN is supposed to represent your wealth. What makes this superior actually, this financial statement, is this is the story of your enterprise. This is the story of your, kahit sa personal finance, from the enterprise creation to procreation. Ikaw, if from the time you have started earning money, this will show actually the amount of wealth that you have actually accumulated. Now, probably might ask, is it possible to have a negative net worth? Pwede. Pag mas marami kang utang kaysa asset. So imagine, if you do not measure this, imagine if you're an entrepreneur and you don't measure your balance sheet, you don't know your productive assets, and you keep borrowing. Wow, therefore that will make more problems for you. Instead of multiplying your wealth, you will end up actually losing your wealth. So importante ito. So very basic lang naman yan. Assets less liabilities equals net worth. Hopefully, it's positive net worth for you. I have seen lots of enterprises have been operating for so long, but they have failed to measure this. So what do you do? What do you do for those enterprises? Then you have to construct as if you have just started your operations, but not going through all the records. You can actually construct your balance sheet just by looking, for example, you really have to look at your records from day one. If you're a 5-year-old enterprise, you really have to look at the cash, all the records of your inflows and outflows for you to get the value of your cash. No, just look at your passbook. Just look at your ATM. Whatever is the cash balance there as of, let's say, for example, you want to have a balance sheet, you want to measure your net worth as of June 30. Just look at your bank statement, just look at your passbook or ATM, include your cash in the cash box, then that's your cash balance. Again, this is not for statutory requirement, but it's for you, for your own eyes as entrepreneur. Accounts receivable, how do you measure? Tingnan mo yung listahan ng pautang mo, yung makukolekta mo pa ha, kasi yung hindi na talaga ikaw babayaran, wag mo nang isama. Kasi that's no longer productive asset. Better write it off. So, look at the value of your receivables. How much is realizable? Then that's the value of your receivable. Next, look at your inventory. How do you measure the value of your inventory? You value it at cost, not based on selling price. So there are still other types of assets, but if you belong to a trading industry, most likely meron kang receivables, meron kang inventory. But regardless of the industry, lahat ng entrepreneurs, o kahit hindi ka entrepreneur, when you do your SALN, when you do your balance sheet, your personal balance sheet, certainly you have cash. So now let's go to the financing side, your liabilities. If you look at the liability side, mayroong dalawa dito. Utang, loans, and then suppliers credit, meaning you have yung loans, that's cash. Yung suppliers credit, probably you have bought some items in kind, so you're able to avail of these. So pag tinignan natin to, 2.5 million assets and 1 million liabilities, hindi pa rin naman siya highly leveraged. Mas marami pa rin siyang assets, di ba? Okay. And still the net worth is not negative, it's still positive. So that's the first financial statement, the superior financial statement that you have to measure. Next, please. Next, this is the income statement. Yan. Instead of showing absolute figures, I'm making use of some percentages here. Why? If you look at the different levels of analysis, you have the top line there, the revenues. And from the top line of revenues, which is always expressed as 100%, tingnan natin sa baba, from 100%, dami mong nabenta, ilan lang ang naiwan? Sa bottom line, net income, you have 7%. So what does it tell you now? Okay. Hindi yan sa dami ng binenta mo for you to be able to measure whether you're actually making profits or not. So it's also dependent on your cost structure. Look at the cost structure here. 50% ay product or service cost. Buti na lang 50%, less than 100%. So meron ka pang tubo. You have a gross margin of 50%. But in measuring whether you have made profits or not, it's not enough that you just deduct the product or the service cost. You also have to look at other costs. The other day I was teaching social entrepreneurs, and the question I got was, Ma'am, kasama pa ba dapat sa expense yung sweldo ko? Siyempre naman. Not because you're a social entrepreneur, you have to subsidize your salaries. You have to, because it has to be full cost. So tingnan mo dito. May natira siyang tubo, 50%, and then a total of 40% have been charged as operating costs. So may natira pa siyang 10% na operating income. I put here 3% financing costs. This is the picture of the income statement that we actually measure every time we assess the capacity of our micro entrepreneurs who are actually applying loan for us. So pag tiningnan mo to, pag nakakita kami ng income statement na ang operating income ng entrepreneur is actually lower than the financing cost that we're going to charge, then it's not a viable proposition. So take a look at the figures here. Operating income, 10%. Financing cost, 3%. Net income, 7%. Is it good? Is it a good or bad credit? Sige nga, can you chat your answer? Is this a good picture? Assuming the result of your measure is this one, you're wearing the hat of a lender. The entrepreneur is projecting to achieve a 10% income before borrowing. So if you're the creditor, are you going to lend to this entrepreneur? John?
Yes, ma'am. Ako.
Sumasagot ba sila? Nandyan pa
Yes,
ba sila?
ma'am.
Okay pa ba kayo dyan?
Ramil Patio says low risk.
Okay, low risk. Okay, about the others? Okay. Sige. Tingnan nyo yung mabuti. Okay. 10% operating income, 3% financing cost. Okay. From the perspective of the creditor, the financier, this is good. Why? Because the entrepreneur actually is projecting to make more profit than the creditor. 7% will be left with the borrower, and only 3% will go to the creditor. Diba? So, hindi nakaka-concern siyang manghiram o magpautang dahil mas malaki ang kikitain ng micro-entrepreneur. It's a different story here if the financing cost is 7% and the net income is 3% or even less. So, it's very, very important that when an entrepreneur borrows, it should not be just for the purpose of making profits to pay your debt. Diba? Hindi dapat ganun. So every time you apply for loan, you measure the profitability prospects of your enterprise proposal and see, it will not be a good picture if most of your profits will accrue to your creditors. So yan, so far we have discussed the second financial statement, second most important financial statement that you have to measure. So kanina, we have measured the net worth. Itong pangalawa, we have measured the bottom line or the net income. Now, if you relate your net income against your total assets, that's where you will compute your ROI, return on investment, but that's for another session siguro. But what I'm saying is, it's not enough that you look at your balance sheet and you look at your income statement. You have to look at both. You have to see the relationship of your net income against your balance sheet. You should not celebrate too early that just because you will post a net profit, a positive bottom line, you're already good. You should see the relationship between the two. A minimum, you should have a positive ROI higher than your paper, your income in your paper investment. Anong ibig sabihin nun? Huwag ka nang magnegosyo kung ang makukuha mo lang return on investment ay kasing taas lang ng kikitain ng pera mo sa time deposit. Mag-invest ka na lang sa time deposit para wala ka ng sakit ng ulo. So you should target ROI higher than what a time deposit ROI will give you. Next, the third one is have to face the brutal fact. You have to ask yourself, how much is my free cash? Ano yung sabihin ng free cash? If you have debt, if you're paying debt, siyempre hindi na yan kasama sa free cash mo kasi that's already committed. Assuming you have free cash of 1 million and you're allocating 80% of that for enterprise and 20% for personal use. And you do your forecast and you're estimating na because it's pandemic, I will be incurring monthly losses of 100,000. And at the same time, I have to allot personal budget of 100,000. So that's a total of 200,000. So now compute your cash runway. Cash runway is 5 months. How did we compute for this? Your free cash of 1 million divided by your monthly losses plus your personal budget. Imagine, 5 buwan na lang ang buhay ng free cash mo. If you have failed to measure your cash runway, then you're headed for disaster. Instead na mag-transform ka from bleeding to surviving, you will go backward, surviving to bleeding. Okay? So those are the 3 things that we have to measure. Now, next, let's go to the management part. How do you now manage your wealth? Because you have learned that there's a need to measure, so now you can better manage your wealth. The essential questions are first, how do you turn around from net loss to break even? And how do you extend your cash runway? So I'm giving you tips using the word finance, okay? So on the financing side, next, of course, you have to utilize your enterprise loans for income-generating activities and not for personal consumption. It does not make sense to borrow loan at an interest rate of 3% and second, you have to apply your long-term loan for capital expenditure and short-term loan for working capital. So there should be proper matching. Next, try to convert your fixed costs to variable costs. What does that mean? Largely now, especially large enterprises, they're actually paid for performance, commission basis, but it's heartwarming to know that majority of MSMEs, they're motivated to keep their people. So malasakit na lang on the part of the employees to really contribute as much. But to extend your cash runway, yeah, there's a need to convert most of the fixed cost to variable cost and then maintain the right level of inventory. Hindi yan sa paramihan ng tinda, but do product line analysis, follow the 80-20 Pareto principle, review how much of your inventory, what's the 20% of your inventory that actually produces 80% of your profits, and get rid of non-moving inventory. I remember one of my classmates in AIM then, he actually realized millions just by getting rid of non-moving inventory. Di ba rin nang mag-sale ka at cost, kesa naman totally maging loss. Balance cost of granting credits to customers versus its benefits. Offer discounts for cash sales and for early payments of credit sales. They have to motivate your customers to pay early. If you don't offer cash discounts for prompt payment, why will they pay cash? They will just avail of credit. Next, please. Next slide. Yan. Ito, very basic. Ensure that your payment terms with suppliers are longer than the terms you extend to customers. Bibigay ka ng terms sa customers mo, 60 days. Ikaw naman, sa supplier, you have 30 days. You'll have liquidity squeeze. You will be needing bridge financing every time. Next. Yeah, have to put controls for assets that are easily convertible to cash because cash is fungible. So you have to perform regular cash count, deposit, reconciliation. You do regular confirmation of your account receivable. You have to document your procedures for sales, purchases, and expenses. Next, you have to keep separate records in a secure place and you have to maintain backup copy. And you avoid incompatible function. What do I mean by that? Please do not assign your cashier as the one also in charge of recording the transactions because in cases of fraud, your cashier will be tempted not to record those funds that you have actually defrauded. Next, you have to generate monthly financial statements. Huwag naman annual kung kailangan lang mag-submit sa statutory for statutory compliance. You have the very least generate monthly financial statements. Complete, not just the income statement, but balance sheet, income statement, cash flow. Next. Yes, you have to prepare cash budget or cash forecast. Many entrepreneurs are fixated with the historical data. They celebrate too early if they made profits, but in enterprise management, accounting is just 10%. Looking at the past, looking at the historical data is just 10%. Preparing cash budget, cash forecast is 90%. So again, perform regular cash count, deposits, and bank recon. Next. Yes, you have to regularly track performance target versus accomplishments. In Bayan, where it's very helpful for us that we do track our performance before the end of the previous year. We actually make sure that we set our targets right and we monitor our accomplishments, whether we're actually achieving the target, and we reward our performance and we challenge our laggards. So if you don't set your performance targets, how will you know whether you're accomplishing more or less? So it's very important. It's finance because it's not just about the past. It's also about managing the present and forecasting the future. Next. So that's about managing your wealth. Now the last part is after you have measured and manage your wealth, then you can now look forward to multiplying your wealth because you now have a very clear baseline. Now we'll cover how to set, prioritize, and track your smart wealth goals towards multiplying your wealth. So tingnan natin. How can you do it? How should you do it? Next slide, please. So we all know the meaning of smart. It has to be, it's a smart goal if it's specific, if it's measurable, if it's attainable, if it's relevant, if it's time-based. If these elements are not present in your goals, then forget about it. It will never happen. If it's not specific, if it's not measurable, then nobody will commit to it and nobody will be excited about it. So I'm going to show you some examples of how to set, track, and be excited about these smart goals. Okay, next. Okay, this is an example of setting a short-term goal. Short-term meaning something that you will commit yourself for at most 3 years. Ito, example, build up emergency funds. Smart goal, to build that emergency fund. Save 50,000 per month for the next 12 months. Of course, these are just hypothetical figure, but what I'm just trying to point out here is, ang haba naman yan, 12 months. When do you do this? Well, if you haven't done this, whether this is personal or entrepreneurial finance, you should start doing this. Imagine if you're out of job for 3 or 6 months and you don't have emergency funds, it's a big problem. Imagine if you're managing your enterprise and you have been bleeding for the last 4 months, where will you get funding? Who will lend to you? So it's important that you build your emergency fund. The minimum here is equivalent to 3 months of your monthly expenses, or as much or as high as 6 months, or even 1 year. Ito nilagay ko 1 year. What's another target? If you're a micro entrepreneur now, why don't you target to grow from micro to small? Again, how do you do that? You can only increase your wealth. You can only multiply your wealth if you have accumulated profits. So what should be your SMART goal? You should target to have a monthly net profits of 100,000 over the next 3 years. Because if significant amount of that profit is being plowed back to your operations or enterprise, then that will make you grow and evolve from micro to small. And what makes our MSMEs heroes are the fact that you are not just creating wealth for yourself, you're actually creating jobs. So put it as part of your SMART short-term goal. Provide at least 4 jobs to impact 20 families. So that's a sample of setting short-term SMART goal. Now let's go to the medium. Ito naman medyo mahaba, 3 to 5 years. So target to grow from small to medium enterprises kasi medyo maano yun, mataas, di ba? 3 million to 15, ang laki ng jump. The maximum for micro is no. Go to the previous slide, please. Medium term pa lang tayo. Medium term, yan. So if you look at this one, as micro, di ba, the asset size, excluding land, is not more than 3 million. If you're aspiring to grow from micro to small, then your asset size should grow from 3 million to 15 million. And if you want to go to medium, it should be above 15 to not more than 100 million. So you have to put your monthly net profit goals over the next 5 years. And similar to the short-term goal, you also have to target how many jobs do you target to generate as an entrepreneur, as a micro, small, medium entrepreneur. So the higher the growth, the bigger the growth, the higher the chances for you to generate jobs for the Filipinos. And finally, for the long term, yan na, 5 to 10 years. Huwag mong kalimutan ng sarili mo. You're so busy working, you're so busy sending, if you're married and you have kids and you're sending them to good school, or you're too busy providing for the family, you have to start figuring out how much you have to save for your retirement. Lagay ko lang dito, invest at least 50,000 per month, but this depends on your lifestyle. So you ask yourself, if I retire 10 years from now, okay, depending on your age, how much will I be spending during that retirement period? So that's the amount of money that you have to save. Because if you don't save for yourself, if you don't save enough retirement and you just rely on whatever you will get from the government or whatever you will get from the company where you will retire, that might not be enough. Unless you will settle to have, to calibrate your lifestyle according to whatever retirement fund you will get. And then, if you're an entrepreneur, target to grow from medium to large. Hopefully, you will be one of the most compassionate large entrepreneurs that this country will ever have. So imagine if you actually provide at least 100 jobs, that will impact 500 families. You need not be a president, a mayor, or a congressman to help our fellow Filipinos. Finally, okay, so once you have brainstormed some SMART goals, you have to prioritize them kasi ang dami, di ba? You have to prioritize them according to what is most urgent or most important to you. So obviously, if you have put them as part of your short term, yung dapat yung most urgent to you. And make sure each goal has a time frame and then chart your progress each week. You have to find somebody, next slide please. Yeah, you have to revisit your goal, you adjust them when necessary, and celebrate when you achieve them. And you have to share your goal with a friend to help keep you on track. Personally, when I made our personal financial plan and I have shared it with my husband, it's very, it's a very joyful moment every time you achieve specific milestones in your personal financial plan. Because you keep challenging yourself after this milestone, what's next, what's next. But I'd like to end my presentation with this slide. Okay, according to Omar B. Washington, the richest man in the world is not the one who has the most, but the one who needs the least. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Miss Babes. I personally found it very useful for my own enterprise. I think sabi ko nga, minessage ko na nga po si Trish, sabi ko panoorin niya ito later on sa sa Facebook Live. Okay,
Yeah.
so if we have any questions from the audience, make sure to type them up either in chat or in the Q&A box. Okay, I think now is a great opportunity to get some advice direct from the expert na si Miss Babes. Okay, so we'll check if we have questions on Facebook. Okay. Okay. So far naman, ma'am, mukhang wala silang masyadong mga
Wala
tanong.
kayong tanong. It's either I hope you have some key takeaway points for this very limited time, 1 hour. It's already 12 o'clock on my watch, and I just try to deliver within the time frame given to me. So hopefully, this will make a difference from now on in helping you measure, manage, and multiply your wealth, be it personal or about your enterprise. Wala na? Andyan pa ba sila?
Andiyan pa, ma'am. We still have 90 participants.
Okay, so
Here, we have a question.
sure.
This is naman with regard to team performance. How can we measure team performance? I guess you also mentioned kanina, ma'am, no, yung challenging the laggards and rewarding the performers.
Okay. Depends on the industry eh. If I may share siguro, sa Buy and Edge, we have a very clear, emotionless way of measuring not just the individual, but even the team performance. How exactly do we do it? We look at the contribution of each team. When I say we look at the contribution, we do segment reporting, where we actually monitor the profit contribution of each segment. So when I say reward the performers and challenge the laggards, hindi kailangang maging sip-sip sa boss for one to get rewarded. The figures itself will say, and it's predetermined, meaning there's a very clear incentive scheme where the incentive is unlimited. So to answer the question, how do we reward performers? Yung nasa front line, and if they're directly responsible in bringing the profits, then you go back to the financial statements that they have measured. In this case, you look at the income statement of that specific profit or investment center, and then you reward accordingly. If you own the enterprise, never think na baka malugi ka if I reward. No, it will pay for itself. Because normally, the reward is just a drop in the bucket. Large portion of the profit still accrues to the foundation. And for the backroom naman, paano if they're not responsible in bringing profits, they do also get a share if the front line actually performs. So that will bring both the backroom and the front line to work together. But in no case, the backroom will get an incentive without the front line performing. So that's how it's designed. So meron kami individual incentive, we have team incentive, we also have the corporate incentive where everybody will get a share. But it's performance-based.
Okay. Thank you for that, ma'am. No? Maganda yung sinabi niyo na huwag matakot mag-reward kasi the reward will pay for itself.
Yes.
Okay.
And if I may add, John, actually, that will also motivate your people to really mind measuring their performance on their own now, on their own. Dito sa amin, our edges will not wait for finance to produce the reports for them to find whether they're actually contributing or not. They themselves, they know whether our accounting is charging them the right cost or not. Mabut-but, ino-audit ang financial statement.
Okay. Ito ma'am, may question. It's somewhat related pero medyo HR na siya, no?
Mm-mm.
How to hire the right employee for the right position.
Okay. How to write the right employees for the right position. First, you have to ask yourself, what is the competency requirement for that position? Kasi ito minsan yung, this is the common problem eh. If you don't set the right competency for the right position, then you will not get the right person. So it should be very clear first to the owner, uh, ano bang competency yung hinahanap ko? It's not enough that you put there college graduate, this course, etc. So that the person who will apply will know exactly what is it that's expected of me. So basic thing is to set the competency requirement. And do background check ha. Madami na ngayong ano, they look good on CVs, but it's not real. So don't fail to do background check, especially of their
Yes.
previous employers. Don't believe everything that's written on the CV at face value.
Tama. Okay, thank you for that, ma'am. Ito naman, with regards doon sa financials nung ano, doon sa balance sheet
Mm.
ng enterprise. What are the measures to do when your payables are higher than your accounts receivable?
What are the measures to do when your payables are higher than your accounts receivable? First, basic is you do your aging first of your receivable. Okay? So, you know exactly if the chances of collectivity is high. Okay? Can you repeat the question, John, if I get it right?
Uh,
What do you
what
do
are
if the payables are
payables than,
higher than
yes, ma'am, than
the
the accounts
receivables?
receivable?
Oo.
Yes.
First, even before minding your payables, okay, look first at your accounts receivable. Try to age them. Try to see how much of those receivables are really realizable or collectible and when. Now, after you're done aging your receivables, you now look at your payables and revisit the terms and try to negotiate for either rescheduling or restructuring. Because if the inflows from your collection of receivables lower than the outflows of your payable, you will have liquidity squeeze. And I will not advise you to get fresh loans without resolving your present problem, because that will not help you to get fresh loans. So in short, what I'm saying is study first your current portfolio of receivables and try to negotiate with your debt amortization, what package, what options can be given to you.
Okay. Thank you for that very practical advice, ma'am.
Mm.
Ngayon, we have a question from Miss Rosalie Imperial, no? Who belongs to DENR, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken. We are working with forest communities to set up their enterprises. What assistance can communities access from Bayan Edge? Siguro, ma'am, Miss Rosalie, would you care to elaborate what kind of assistance exactly? Kasi malawak ang services that buyandedge.mbs provides, no?
Mm-mm.
But I guess you can give them a quick menu, ma'am. Kung
Yeah,
anong
sure.
pwede. Yeah.
Okay. So at Buy and Edge, we don't just provide financing. We do training, we do coaching, and it's important that we know exactly what's the need of your enterprise. So it's not enough kasi that we just help you with providing capital. And if you're an SE, I'm not sure kasi if SE po ito, forest communities to set up their enterprises. We have helped actually in our portfolio, we have actually helped enterprises at their startup, not as financier, but as fund manager when we actually manage the ADD fund for the Bayan ni Juan sa Kalawan sa ABS. Yun po. Tinuruan po namin yung through Bayan Academy also, we help those communities, yung financial literacy training, and then we manage the funds for them para the mindset is not parang dole out yung mentality. Kung hindi, they will be more responsible to take care of the funds that have been given to them. So, siguro po, you can connect with us even after this webinar para we can better serve you.
Yes. Actually, if I may add, ma'am, no, kami naman sa Search Foundation, we also have experience in working with forest communities, no. So definitely, whatever assistance that you or your communities need, whether it be in terms of finance and accounting, or even sa business management, community development, operations, HR, etc. So we can definitely offer a full suite of services if you are interested. So just get in touch with us po. Okay, kaya pa ba ma'am mag-answer? Siguro we can, last question na lang.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a question from Sir Neil Salvacion. How can businesses translate surviving and thriving in this crisis into something smart? Meaning yung acronym po na SMART.
I'm sorry again. Come again.
Paano po pwede, sige, let me rephrase. Paano po ilalatag itong goal of surviving or thriving into the SMART objectives po?
Okay. If you were listening from the start, that's why the steps are very clear from the first one. You cannot multiply, you cannot set the SMART goal if you don't start measuring first. So you have to start with measuring. So that's why I said at the onset, I said, is your enterprise bleeding, surviving, or thriving? You cannot answer that question unless you measure. Diba? And how do you measure? You look at the basics. You look at the basic financial statements because you cannot manage what you do not measure. And you cannot set a goal, diba, without knowing the baseline. So you really have to look at the baseline. You cannot skip step one. So they are all connected. You cannot go straightly to setting a SMART goal without looking at the baseline. So ganun po talaga yon. So there's no one straight answer that will bring you to setting goals without looking at the past, looking at where you are right now.
Okay. Thank you for that, ma'am. No? Tulad nga ng sinabi nyo, I mean, there's no one set answer naman to these questions. However, I'm sure with these types of questions, parang marami pang background, marami pang backstory yan on the end of the entrepreneur and their enterprise. No? So if they want to learn more from you with regards to their specific circumstance talaga, ipropromote na po namin. So, ipa-plug ko na yung services niyo, ma'am. So actually, buyandedge.mbs offers itong what we call the BEAT consultancy, okay? Or yung Buy and Edge Applied Technologies, not for family-owned enterprises, pero I think for any enterprise din, ma'am, no?
Yeah.
So, ayan nga, BEAT stands for Buy and Edge Applied Technologies. It also stands for Best Service Providers, Engaging Coaching Process, Affordable Fees, and Tested Solutions. So actually, ang Buy and Edge, hindi lang naman yan basta-basta accounting lang or financing firm, no? With the BEAT, they offer talaga coaching and mentoring for the entrepreneur na they really sit down with you, they go through your books, your records, your processes, talagang mabusisi po. Hindi yung basta-basta ibibigay nyo lang yung papeles nyo sa kanila tapos sila na bahala. So they will be teaching you how to do it yourselves then, actually. Tama po ba, Miss Babes?
Yes, actually, the more difficult part of the coaching is not just looking at the past because any accounting firm can do that, Johnny, yung accounting for the past. But actually, our value proposition is after helping you construct your financial statement, looking at the past. 90% of our service is helping you how to actually better manage your enterprise, especially the finance portion. In fact, hindi lang finance, even HR, all aspects of your operations to help you be more forward-looking.
Yes. Okay po. So if you in the audience or in Facebook Live are interested to avail of these services, you can visit the Buy and Edge website at www.buyandedgembs.org. Okay. You can also like them on Facebook at buyandedge.mbs official. Siguro, Miss Babes, you can also type sa chat yung email if they want to inquire.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps you can share the where they'll send their inquiries.
They can actually, John, visit our website.
Okay.
Bind Edge has a website. They can go to Bind Edge, mbs.org.
Yeah. Okay. And then they'll see the, ay ma'am, nakamute po kayo. Ma'am, ayun.
bindedgembs.org.
Yeah. Okay. And then they can see the contact details naman.
Yes, yes.
So again, thank you very much, Miss Babes.
Thank
Siguro
you.
I'll just spend a minute to promote our other upcoming webinars bago mag-launch lahat. So of course, if you're, I'm sure lahat kayo marami kayong napulot po from the lecture on Miss Babes on measuring, managing, and multiplying your wealth. So if you want to learn more, let us know through the evaluation form, which we linked here, no? Kasi if you guys are interested, we can deploy more webinars with Miss Babes to go deeper into financial management and wealth management for MSMEs. Okay, but aside from that, next week we also have a webinar with one of the Bayan Academy board members, si Professor J. Bernardo. Yes, that's on value creation through innovation, and that's next week, July 29, Wednesday, same time. Okay? So please join us. This is in collaboration with DTI Negosyo Center, Facebook, and the Philippine Commission on Women. Okay? So again, thank you so much for all the participants. Maraming salamat, Miss Babes,
Yes.
for lending us your time and your expertise.
Yeah. You're welcome, John.
Okay, and we look forward to doing more webinars with you and with Bayan Edge.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so thank you so much for everyone. Have a good day, have a good lunch, and keep safe. Thank you.
Yes. Good day. Have a blessed day, everyone.